So your first day working with Robert De Niro, how does that play out for you? What do you do?
You know, it was an interesting culmination because the first time I ever met him was... Well, I never met him, but I was in the audience and he was doing Inside the Actor's Studio. And I asked him a question. And...
So how old were you then?
I was, 26 or something.
So you hadn't 25. Had any real success that we would know?
No, no, I was still in school.
Okay.
Yeah, and I asked him a question. I remember he said... Because he doesn't talk much. Yeah. And he had done the whole interview, and I remember I asked him I was so nervous. This is stupid. I was so nervous because it was such a specific question I asked him. it was such like a nerdy question about this movie Awakenings, where he wanted to go for a walk, his character, and this medicine he was taking wasn't working anymore, so he kept having a tic, and he would compensate by pretending to rub his eyebrow. And so I wanted to ask him if that was something that he saw or just came up, and I was just like, I was shaking. Because you had to stand up and ask the question and say your name and what track you're on, which is so stupid, so I never even said that. But anyway, so this other guy asked a question, and I asked it, and then he's there, and he's like, no, I didn't see anybody do that, no. That's a good question. And I was like, what? Wow. And it was like a beam of light shot into my stomach when he said that. And I honestly, and this is so. And then I asked the school if I could have a copy of that moment, and they just had it like in the wide set. And I'm not kidding. I would think about it like for a year later. I would think like, well, you know what? Like, go for it, because Robert De Niro did say that was a good question. And honestly, yeah. So.
Just that tiny bit of advice.
You never know the impact you have.
So Jennifer Lawrence in this film, the two of you are great together. It's very funny, the scenes between you, and it kind of culminates in a big... There's an important thing, it builds up. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a very important dance sequence.
Yes, yeah.
At the end. And,
that was,
and it's not quite what you expect it to be, and it's funny as well as being kind of important. But presumably you guys had to work pretty hard at that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you want to become intimate and get to know somebody very fast, you put them in a situation where you're going to be vulnerable, and in the first second. And I never met Jennifer before, and I got that role very late, and so I drove from one set to another, and I showed up, and the next thing you know, I'm in this small studio that was really, there was no air conditioning, and I have like dance clothes on, and then there's this beautiful woman who I hadn't seen Hunger Games or anything, and I didn't know her. I just spoke to her on the phone. Who was so present, and next thing you know, I'm like, she has to put her hands under my sweaty armpits, and we're this close and having to learn to dance, and but it actually worked out perfectly because I think it really made us able to just lose everything and just be sort of present with each other.
We have the trailer show. It was 21st of November. I loved it, and it really wasn't what I expected. I mean, I didn't know what I expected.
Right.
But it was funny, and it was sad, and it was exciting, and at heart of it, there's a really lovely romance. Have a look at this. There we go. Silver Lining Playbook is the name, and well, we saw just about everyone in there. Of course, with De Niro, and it's kind of quite a rough scene between the two of you. You have a kind of argy-bargy scene going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't tell the story. I'll try to tell the story.
No, tell the whole story. You can't laugh at something and then keep it private.
Anyway, next question. Yeah. But we had to do this scene, and at this point, we've done 2 movies together, and I really love him to death and feel totally comfortable with him, and it was one of the reasons why I felt so secure initially, because I was like, oh, at least Bob's there, and we had to do this scene in the attic. A very emotional scene. I mean, like crazy. Like my character's flipping out, and we would start hitting each other. But, my character sort of is very much like his father, and like those very light, those thin pajamas you wear? They're almost like a pimp outfit, when you go...
Oh, like a satiny kind of...
Yeah. So Dad had that on, and also I had that on. And then at one point, he's on top of me in the bed hitting me. Right? And I'm like this, and he's on top of me.
And you got no action?
No. But if I did, it would have been all over. But there's no underwear. There's just literally like a half a centimeter of silk in between the genital side. And then he would do the take, and he'd be like, is that good? We got good? And I was just trying not to laugh, because Robert De Niro, you feel that, the thing. And I just thought, how has this happened?
Wow.
At 36 years old, I have Robert De Niro.
Rubbing balls with the greatest screen actor. Well, David Mitchell has a book out. I hope it's packed with anecdotes as rich as that one, David.
It's got an identical anecdote.
That's his move. That's De Niro's move.